Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? Yes, it's late. But on the nights when I told you I am going to have content, unless I'm like super sick or something, I'm going to have content. There will not be content tomorrow because I need to get centered here. Because there is a bylaws committee meeting, which I do invite you to. And one thing I don't like about these late shows, or my shows in general lately, is I look as tired as I feel. I just cannot even tell you the amount of work right now that's involved in the Libertarian Party. Hello, Nathan. So the minute I get home from my job, I haven't changed. As you can tell, I'm still in my work clothes. And I got home 5 hours ago, nonstop, just nonstop doing LP work. And some people would consider this, I suppose, LP work, but this is a labor of love. Not that the other stuff isn't either. So we've just got a short little bonus episode, and we're done a little bit behind schedule, but we be done with March, April, and then we'll move into May. So I told you I was going to be looking up some articles that were referenced in that. Why am I having such a hard time with this? March, April 1975 LP News. But before we do that, I'd like to remind you, please go to Rumble and subscribe to me there for when they throw me off of YouTube. That way you'll know where to find me. But while I'm on YouTube, please do, if you have not hit subscribe. It's down there at the bottom. Go and do it now, please. That would really help. I'll have a sip of my sangria while I'm waiting. And go register for the bylaws committee meeting tomorrow. It should be interesting. And I wanted to, yes, stick up my Patreon. That's the way you can best show your appreciation if you would become a subscriber at patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty, or do one of those little super thanks if you're watching this after the fact. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm Karen Ann Harlos everywhere, but Twitter is mostly where I'm at right now, and I have a feeling this sangria is turning my tongue red. But anyway, that's the way it goes, right? So, out of all of those articles that I circled, you know, not everything is archived. I do pay for a newspapers.com subscription. Your Patreon support helps that. It's not a cheap subscription, but there's some great LP stuff on there. So there was only 3 articles out of like the 10 that I circled, but there's like 3 of them. And for once, I'm warm. Normally I'm freezing down here, but I'm going to take off this jacket. Plus, I still shouldn't be in my formal jacket like 5 hours after work. Things are getting a little bit out of control. Okay, that's much more comfortable. Alrighty, so, and I want to adjust the camera a little bit. No, I don't want to do that. There we go. I guess that's okay. All right, I'll stop fiddling around. We're going to get to these articles. So, there's one from Los Angeles, there's one from Connecticut, and there's one from Iowa. So we're going to start with Iowa because I love these. I mean, I like them all, but ones like this are so helpful. The way the newspapers back then used to actually report on us. I could stick this up on the screen, but I think it's easier for me to hold it up to the camera. I do have it on my desktop, but it's basically Libertarian Party formed, and it's talking about the Libertarian Party of Iowa, or as it was known at that time, the Ohio Libertarian Party. I think it's still called that. Has Iowa changed their name to LPIA? I think they are the IALP still. I think they're one of the few parties that kept the state name first. And hello, JJ. How are you? So let's talk about Iowa. I can't call him my favorite ghoulish Republican troll anymore. I'm so sad. By the way, if you guys aren't reading the LNC list, we flipped a legislature in the state house in Vermont who switched midterm from Republican to Libertarian. So go and take a look at that. It's on the LNC list. That is so exciting when that happens. But now back to Iowa. Ames, Iowa, from the Associated Press was actually picking us up. Members of a newly formed state political party will, this is going to trigger some people, will petition for permission. But it's exactly right when you hear the rest of the sentence, but it's still going to trigger some people. Will petition for permission to affiliate with the National Libertarian Party. Wait a minute. I thought Tom Knapp said the National Libertarian Party didn't exist. It's so weird the way there's all this reporting and documents on something that doesn't exist. And then when I asked him, well, then how do you know the LNC exists? He's like, well, I used to be on it. And I'm like, well, I'm a member of the National Libertarian Party, so every argument you can use to show the LNC exists also proves the National Party exists. Because he got mad that I was using state documents to prove the existence of the National Libertarian Party. I could prove it without referring to state documents, but however much as libertarians we don't like it, political parties are a creature of the state. Like, you have to refer to state documents because we do have to ask for government permission to be a political party. And yes, there is a national political party. It's defined by a certain section of the United States Code that I can quote to you. There is a National Libertarian Party. I cannot believe. I think Tom's just being stubborn because Tom is brilliant. He's a very good writer. He does daily editorials that you can pick up and submit to your local newspapers at the Garrison Center. I think he just said something dumb and is too stubborn to back down, because I have to tell you, the statement that the National Libertarian Party literally does not exist is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. And I love Tom. But okay. With the National Libertarian Party, says Dr. William Backoven of Ames. He said Tuesday that a Libertarian Party was formed in Iowa last week. So now we know when the Iowa LP was formed. He was elected state chairman and acting secretary, and Carl Spahn was elected treasurer. The Libertarian Party promotes individualism and is against government control, he said, and members... You'll see how far back this goes, but it does go back to the beginning, but it's interesting to see it in a newspaper article. And its members do not believe in using force to achieve political and social goals, he added. So you see the NAP pledge right there. Okay, next article we're going to look at is from East Granby, Connecticut. So, Libertarian head foresees good year. So let's see what this is about. Libertarian Party head, and he's speaking of the head of the Connecticut Libertarian Party, not the National Party, said Saturday, Robert Loomis said Saturday, the immediate aim of the year-old organization is to build membership and put a slate of electors on the ballot in the presidential election next year. It will be a good year for us, Loomis said. The party is now in the process of organizing a June convention. There's like a typo here. It says, which will include a picnic, Like a line got doubled and not even all the words were included. There's a typo in the newspaper. Loomis is... What? Okay, this next paragraph makes no sense. He's co-chairman. Now, I know there are groups that do that. Roberts tells you, do not do that. You can have a first vice chair, second vice chair. Don't have co-chairman. That makes no sense. But apparently that's what they were doing in Connecticut. Loomis is party co-chair, along with Francis Moore of New Hartford, and said he is technically still a Republican. So there's nothing about this paragraph that makes any sense to me. He noted that the party membership included both conservatives and liberals. The Libertarian Party is the only party which has tried to operate on the consistent principle, my God, we're just reading the NAP pledge everywhere here, that it is always wrong to initiate force against another person. Now, the key word there, because even libertarians screw this up. So I'm not going to be talking much about the Michigan situation because, it's in the hands of lawyers now, and I'm not going to do legal stuff. But where people are saying, oh my God, there was an FEC complaint filed or this or that. When you're defending against fraud, that is not the initiation of force. The fraud was the initiation of force. We are not against all force. We are against the initiation of same. Responsive force is completely appropriate. My God, it's just insane to me that libertarians don't understand that. Loomis maintained, and the party platform has developed from that stand. Loomis said the party aim is to promote liberty. He indicated that the most difficult part of this task was to find people who really understand what liberty is. Most people just assume they are free and don't realize the stronghold the present system has on them. He referred to government control by permits, licenses, and restrictions on businesses as examples. Speaking of that, there was a book referenced in that last LP News called Land Use Without Zoning. Found it used. I ordered a copy of it. He said a membership committee will report on its plans at the next party meeting. Saturday at the Ramada Inn in Windsor Locks. The meeting will be a day-long affair, and the business portion will begin at 7 p.m. Something else I was going to mention. Oh, I know these shows have just become like me on rabbit trails and stuff like that, but that's what happens when I get excited. If you follow my Twitter feed, you will see there was a video that I posted. The video's not from a libertarian channel, but it's from a channel that I like to call an explainer channel that like takes a certain topic and does a really good job for an outsider of explaining differences between the things. So I don't agree with everything in this video, but it's a great video, and we're going to do a commentary on the video, and it's called something to the extent of the difference between libertarianism and liberalism. And it doesn't mean liberalism the way we use it today, like progressives. It means like classical liberalism. And I know people in the classical liberal caucus are going to get all upset. No, I am not saying that classical liberals do not belong in the Libertarian Party. As I said in my tweet, that would be... Actually, I'm going to try to find that tweet. And I'll do that tweet again when I do this show, because I know, bad actors or people that don't want to understand people in context are already going to take me out of context, and there's not a damn thing I can do about that. So I don't have to worry about it, but I'd like to read my tweet if I can find it. I tweet too much. I tweet way too much. Because it's been a while. I should screenshot that tweet now once I find it. But this was a really good video. Okay, here we go. I am going to screenshot this tweet now, so I'll be able to find it again later. So I'm going to read my tweet. And my tweet says, okay, and here is why there is the quote-unquote caucus wars fundamentally. Libertarianism is not classical liberalism. That does not mean that classical liberals are not welcome. That would be a, all caps, monumentally stupid thing to say. We have a lot in common, more than any other groups, and our world is so fucked up, we should be together. But a lot of the vitriolic condemning coming from the quote-unquote classical liberal side, you see, of some of the messaging is just the exposing of the differences between libertarianism and classical liberalism. And sorry, not sorry, the LP is libertarian. Mostly agree is great to me. Saying, I don't care that there's differences. Mostly agree is good enough. We agree on so much. But we're not the exact same thing. And no, I'm not going to stop saying pure libertarian things, and neither should the party. This is why people like Holly Ward freaked out when she learned that the party always opposed abolishing all private sector parts of the Civil Rights Act. And I find that that is a good, I don't like saying litmus test, because I'm not saying litmus in order to divide people, but I'm saying in order to properly categorize people. If someone has a real visceral anti-reaction to the fact that the party's position is that the non-governmental portions of the Civil Rights Act should be repealed, you're probably dealing with a classical liberal. And that's okay. But the party's position is libertarian, and classical liberalism is not the same exact thing. Can you consider it a subset? Absolutely. Again, I am not saying this to be divisive. To me, this should be no more controversial than me saying anarchism and minarchism are not the same thing. They have a lot in common. They have far more in common than they have not in common, but they're not the same thing. So this intro to my tweet was to introduce a video. Again, I didn't produce this video. It's from a channel. What's the channel called? Hold on, let me pull up this video. I'm not going to play it. I just want to see what the channel name is called. It's not a channel I normally watch. Call Me Ezekiel is the name of the channel. And again, it's an explainer channel. It's a really cool channel. But the name of the video that we're going to go over, and it's a long video, and it's really good. Again, don't agree with everything in it. It says Libertarianism versus Liberalism. What's the difference? And he's explaining Poland ball / ideology ball, history and philosophy. So we're going to go through this because I think it will help explain some of the things that we see going on in the party. Now, obviously, am I saying that every single piece of messaging that comes out of anywhere that people are complaining about is great messaging? No, of course not. But there is some messaging that people are getting upset about that is just simply pure libertarianism, and they don't hold to that, and that is okay. Larry Sharp's 80-20 rule comes into play here. And I think we need to be able to talk about this rationally and like adults. So that will be a future video. And I know some people are going to take it as, oh my God, she's being divisive, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm just trying to be accurate. I'm an anarchist. There's a lot of minarchists. We're not the same thing. That doesn't mean I want to divide from them, because I absolutely do not. And I mean the same thing when I describe the differences between pure libertarianism and classical liberalism. There is a difference. They are not the same thing. And some of the clashing that goes on between the Mises Caucus and the classical liberal caucus is because the Mises Caucus is a pure... I know we're going to get into the Hans Hermann Hoppe stuff. I'm not a Hoppe, and you all know that. But the Mises Caucus is not classically liberal. They're libertarian. It might be a certain flavor of libertarianism that some people like or don't like. But some of the clashes between these two caucuses is the differences between the tippity-top North Star libertarianism and the libertarian quadrant, you know, like on the Nolan chart, where classical liberalism falls within that quadrant. So hopefully, I know that I'm still going to be taken out of context, no matter how charitable I'm trying to be, no matter how clear I'm making it, that I'm not, you know, doing purity spirals or trying to throw anybody out. Not doing that. Okay, so the last... never mind, I'm not going to bother. I think I've explained myself enough. So the last article, which is teeny tiny, Libertarianism dons political party mantle. And this is a Los Angeles newspaper. And as you can tell, this printout is super tiny. So I got to get out the magnifying glass probably to read this. And we might not read it all. We might just skim it because it's kind of a long article. But let's see here. So... it mentions Carol Moore, Carol Ann Moore. Is this Carol Moore of today? Or I mean, that's a relatively common name. But does anyone know if Carol Moore is originally from California and if this is the Carol Moore? Actually, it continues on another page that I didn't notice. So we're not reading the whole article, but we're going to skim through this. Okay. Ultimate in freedom offered as a cure for what ails nation? Carol Ann Moore doesn't wear a crucifix. She wears a gold $sign on a chain around her neck. Actually, I can read this fine. I thought it would be too small. Instead of a picture of Christ or another religious figure, her living room wall displays a portrait of Ayn Rand, apostle of limited government and abolition of taxes. On the coffee table of her Torrance home is a single book bearing the bold red title, Libertarianism. Such are the trappings. This is funny. This is going to offend some of you guys, but You got to learn to laugh at ourselves. If you don't think we get a little culty, you need to do some serious introspection, because we do get a lot culty. So that's what's going to be pointed out next here. Such are the trappings of what could be described as a political religion. Not a religion which worships divinity, but a religion which worships radical human and economic freedom. I actually think that's a pretty damn accurate description of us. Moore, 38, is chairperson of the new Libertarian Party's South Bay chapter. And while she doesn't like the religious comparison, she calls libertarianism the philosophy of her life. Man has the right to be free simply because he's alive. It's a metaphysical right, not a divine right or a constitutional right. I actually agree with her there. But metaphysical and divine aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, but she's obviously an atheist, so she's just using the word metaphysical. I actually like that an atheist said that, because everyone has a metaphysics, and it doesn't require a belief in a divinity. Everyone has a metaphysics. The very fact you don't believe in a deity is a metaphysics. Anyway, freedom is the central tenet of the libertarian philosophy and political party. It is an uncompromising philosophy, yay, and its consistent application, both economically and on social issues, lends the new political party to a curious mix of followers. For example, the new national director of the party is former Reagan Republican. Now remember, this article must have been written a little while ago, because we learned he passed away. We're the party of principle, Moore asserted. We operate on one premise. Oh my God, all these people are doing is repeating the NAP pledge. I love it. We need to be repeating that more and more, but 3 articles in a row. See what she quotes here. We operate on one premise. No human being has the right to exert force or threat of force on anyone else. I wish she had said initiation, because we don't eschew all force. That appeals to left, right, Republican, and Democrat. Specifically, libertarians advocate a dynamic free market, an economy without government regulation or interference. They oppose all forms of taxation. I know people today like to try to pretend that isn't our position, but it is, in fact, our position. Where am I at? Favoring instead voluntary contributions. Okay, now I'm skimming through it, because Moore said the public is ready for libertarianism. Well, I maybe should rethink that today. Our job now is to let them know we exist. We are looking for people who believe freedom is the best way to live. And I've always believed that was the LP's mission. It isn't to convert people. Again, I haven't really decided where I stand on this when I have free time, which I don't have a lot of free time. But when I do have free time to philosophically reflect, which the party kind of has stolen from me, which is strange considering we're such a highly philosophical party. Most of you know that I lean very strongly towards political determinism. And if maybe not hard political determinism, but medium political determinism. And if that's correct, converting people doesn't help. You help people discover what they already are. And I do think that's the job of the Libertarian Party, that there are actual libertarians out there that are just waiting to hear a libertarian message. It will resound with them. Maybe I'm just projecting my own experience, because I do have a little bit of an unusual experience. I wasn't converted to libertarianism by an author, not by Ron Paul, not by reading anything, none of that. I was converted to libertarianism in the span of 15 minutes simply by reading the party platform. All right. Libertarians, by nature, are not political. We just as soon mind our own business, but we're rational enough to realize we have to work with the system in order to change it. The party originated in Colorado in 1971. Its first national convention attracted 100 delegates. Check this out. I'm only going to read this last sentence. the article goes on. It just recapitulates our philosophy, which I think we know well. But some of the more radical statements they weren't scared of saying in the 70s that some libertarians today would rather piss their pants than saying. Like, for instance, the military, he said, should be a purely defensive force supported voluntarily by contributions of citizens. That is what we believe, by the way. Not saying it. See, this is what I'm like, well, you can't lead with that. Why can't you? It's what we believe, right? That's like telling a Christian that you can't lead with Christ died for your sins. Like, it's the whole seeker-sensitive movement. And, what some of the more hardcore Christian pastors used to say against the seeker-sensitive movement that I firmly believe when it comes to libertarianism holds just as true is what you win them with is what you win them to. If you win them with a weak sauce message, you haven't really won them to like what libertarianism as its essence is. To give another biblical parallel, it's like the parable of the wheat and the tares, or the soils. Actually, not the wheat and the tares. The parable of the soils, where it talks about how a farmer spread seed, and some of it fell on good land, and some of it fell on shallow land, and all of the crop sprung up very eagerly and lushly, but the seed sowed on shallow land, as soon as the sun came up, it dried up and it withered. But the seed that was thrown on the very good soil survived. And I do think that goes true not just for religion, but for any kind of ideology. What you win them with is what you win them to. So I believe in being honest with people right off the bat about what we believe. Now, it doesn't mean being what was once called in our party a macho flasher. It doesn't mean that you sit down at the dining room table, and just start shrieking at the top of your lungs to your grandparents, hookers and blow. Like, no. But if somebody asks you forthright what the position is on drugs, don't do the Gary Johnson and be like, well, weed. No, that doesn't teach anybody anything about our philosophy. I could tell you one of the first conversations I had with my boss when he's like, so libertarians believe in the legalization of all drugs? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, even fentanyl? And I'm like, yeah. Like, I don't shy away from that. There was somebody on Twitter the other day, they were arguing about trans or whatever they were arguing about. And I said, listen, kids are one thing, kids can't consent. But an adult, anything adult wants to do with their body, they should be able to do with their body as long as they're not harming anyone else. So someone thought they were going to do the gotcha. They were going to play the gotcha on the libertarian, but they don't realize that I'm freaking ruthlessly consistent. So they said, and if an adult wanted a lobotomy and there was a doctor willing to do it, should that be allowed? And I'm like, one word answer, yes. Should his friends or her friends try to talk them out of it? Yes. But should there be a law? Should it be prohibited? No, it should be socially frowned upon. Haven't we saw with this Bud Light boycott how much more powerful a social censure can be? Anyway, people appreciate you being honest with them, but also not being an asshole and going, oh, well, you don't agree that fentanyl should be legalized? Well, then you can't be in our club. No, we can just disagree on that. That's okay. We don't have to agree on everything. 80-20. We agree on 80% of the things. I think we're going to get along just fine. Just realize that the 20% that you disagree on isn't the party position. That's always been my point of view. Have your heresies. I have mine. Just be very clear about what the party believes when you differ. Say, this is my personal position. It isn't really what the party believes. I happen to differ with them from there. And there is nothing wrong with that. The problem is like when you had, and I love Gary Johnson, don't get me wrong, But he confused a lot of people as to what libertarianism is with his that, you know, a Jewish baker should be forced to bake a Nazi cake. That's not a libertarian position. It's just not. Nobody should be forced to bake any cakes. Like, and it's fine that he personally believed that. If he just distinguished it from what the party believes, I don't think people would have gotten so upset. And we still wouldn't be talking about Nazi cakes today. Like, how in the world did the trope of Nazi cake become a thing in the LP? Like, you realize at the 2016 convention, there were people who were planning on baking cupcakes with swastikas on them. Now, you couldn't do that because everyone's accusing each other of being a Nazi. That wasn't the case in 2016. It was more to shame Gary Johnson for his position that a Jewish baker should be forced to bake a Nazi cake because you can't refuse business, you know, whatever, dumb. Anyway, that's it for today. I already went longer than I thought I would because history gets me all jazzed up. I need to go back and do some more work. This is a pace I'm not going to be able to keep up forever. I'm not talking about my shows. I'll always do my shows. But Lord have mercy, this party is killing me. The amount of work I've had to do lately. If you had told me in my earlier life that I'd work full-time for free, I would have said, yeah, catenazza nagaba, that Italian slang for nuts and bolts in the head. All right, everyone. I hope you have an awesome night. I still haven't changed my closing screen. One of my patrons had pointed out their name wasn't on the closing screen. I still have time. I haven't had time to fix it, but I will take care of that, and I did extend my apology. I hope you all have an awesome night, and I will not see you here, but I hope I see you at the bylaws meeting. Bye-bye.
Take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business, not because they want to